Hey, and welcome to another episode of Motors and Meats. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about one of the easiest maintenance upgrade items that you can do to your Porsche to make it run and feel so much better, and that is your motor mounts. Your motor mounts do a couple of things. They hold the engine inside the car, but they also provide a level of shock absorption. This has a little bit of wiggle room. There's basically a rubber piece inside of here that allows the engine to move around, and this absorbs that shock of the engine moving around so that you don't feel it in the car. Whenever your engine mounts or your motor mounts are starting to go bad, visually you'll be able to see that the tailpipes are sitting lower than they should, and that's because the rubber inside of here is completely worn out, and this thing is just sagged down to the point that it's really not able to do the shock absorption side of things. And I noticed this on my 996, which was a manual transmission, before I changed out the motor mounts on it. The shifts between the gears would be a little bit clunky, and it just seemed normal because it was that way since I bought the car. But after I changed out my motor mounts, it really smoothed out the shifting. With the engine sitting back where it's supposed to be, properly mounted, those shifts were nice and smooth. This car, my 997.2, is a PDK transmission, so I'm really curious to see if there's any felt difference in the shifts. I know whenever I'm in sport mode, if I'm decelerating in traffic up to a red light and I'm not making an aggressive deceleration, the shifts feel a bit jerky as it's downshifting. So I'm going to test that after we put this together. You'll see the car is not at 100% right here. That's because I'm filming this in the middle of my Gundo hack exhaust modification video. While the car is up on the ramps and while it's, not usable, I figured this would be a good time as any to go ahead and put in my new motor mounts. When you're looking directly into the engine bay, you'll be able to see one motor mount is here with 3 bolts that hold it in, and the other one is exactly on the opposite side and also with 3 bolts that hold it in. From underneath, there will be one nut that attaches to the bottom of the stem of the motor mount. This is the nut that goes on the bottom. It has this Torx style fastener that goes onto the bottom. We'll take a look from underneath in just a moment. On the 996, it's just a really large standard hex nut. This process is going to be the same for basically any modern 911, so if you don't have a 997.2, it's going to be very similar. I mentioned earlier there's 3 fasteners. There are 3 down there, but only 2 of them actually go through the motor mount. The easiest thing is to look for the carriage that the motor mounts to. It's going to be this large piece of plate steel that's somewhat trapezoidal shape. So right here is the end of that fastener on this side, and then if we come to the other side, right here is the other fastener. But we can't just start taking things apart and expect the engine not to fall out. You need to brace the engine first. You can do this with a regular jack and like a large piece of wood over the top of it to spread the load out. You don't want to put a jack puck this size directly underneath your oil pan and then just press up onto the engine with it. That could cause some damage, so definitely want to spread the load. I have a transmission jack that has about a 1 foot square plate, so I'm going to use that instead. You want to jack up until you see the car just barely start to lift. At that point, you can start taking the motor mounts apart. We'll do them one at a time so that we don't fully release the engine, although you technically could if you're using the jack in this manner. Be sure not to torque the top mount bolts until you've at least started the bottom bolt. As much as I would have liked to have avoided it, the airbox did still need to be removed. I didn't have to take it all the way out, but I had to take the hose clamp off of the throttle body and lift it up out of its mounting positions so that I could slide it over to the right to be able to get it out of the way so that the old engine mount could come out and the new engine mount could go in. On the right-hand side of the airbox, take care of the vacuum line. It clips into place. You just want to unclip that. If you don't have an S model, you may not have this vacuum line. Now let's get this thing back together after I get my mufflers, and I'll give you some driving impressions on what has changed, what's improved, and what feels like it should have felt. I can already tell you that the motor mounts have made a huge difference in the shifting smoothness. It really is noticeable. I'm in sport mode here, and it has really eliminated any amount of jarring that was happening as the thing shifted. The real test for me is going to be pulling up to a stop sign like traffic speeds while leaving it in sport mode. I really like to leave it in sport mode because the shifts and the throttle response are the way I would normally drive if this was a manual. I would never drive this car the way it drives in normal mode. Alright, I'm coming up to the stop sign now, so I'm going to prematurely slow down to about 40. There it is, way up there. About another 75 yards, and I'm just letting it ease down. You can feel the shifts more than you can in normal mode because we're downshifting at a higher RPM than we would in normal mode. But before, it was very, I don't know, just jerky. It snapped your neck a little bit. It was not a smooth situation, and this has really made a big improvement. There's a lot of cool aftermarket parts that you can get, but really all you need if you've got a high mileage car that has never had this done to smooth things out and put it back like it was, all you need is some stock motor mounts to make that happen. Really pleased with the outcome here. I appreciate you guys watching. If you're into things about the 997, Porsches in general, 911s, Cayennes, 996s, anything like that, go ahead and subscribe. I'd love to have you along. I've got lots of content in the past, and moving forward, we've got lots more content. Thanks for watching.